Welcome back to another video. You're here with Aaron, one of the managers here at Greenland Garden Center, and we're here in our beautiful botanic garden today to talk about protecting tender plants for winter. So tender plants may include things like rhododendrons, it could be hydrangeas, could be tender roses, could even be your evergreens or something you newly planted this year. That's what we're going to be discussing today, and there's some few tips and tricks that we have to kind of help you have success. First caution I'm going to give you before you start doing any of this is if you see leaves on the trees, if you the grass is still green, things are still growing, don't start these tips and tricks. What you'll find is if you start doing some of these things too early, you're going to actually do irreversible damage to the plant. What you're looking for is a completely dormant plant. So how do you know the plant is completely dormant? There's going to be no leaves on the plant. We've had maybe 3 or 4 good hard frosts with minus temperatures overnight. The other indication too is, you can even wait until we have days that are consistently around 0 degrees or under. You want to kind of wait a little bit later rather than doing it too early. And so what are we doing when we're protecting these plants? Our goal when we're protecting these plants is to protect them from a few things. In the case of evergreens, you're looking to protect them from wind and sun. You get sun scald, which is the sun bouncing off the snow onto the evergreen. You'll get drying winds that actually will go through the evergreen in winter and dry it out. So in the case of evergreen, you're looking to prevent damage from the sun or the wind. For tender things like tender roses, tender hydrangeas, things like that, you're concerned about freezing and thawing. So with those plants, what you're trying to do is create a big insulation zone around them so that they can stay a consistent temperature. And there's a few things you can do, and we're going to go through in this video. We're going to do some hands-on on how to do those things. Before we get into that though, the first thing you want to do, no matter what plant you have, no matter what you're dealing with, evergreen, tender rose, whatever it is water. Water is the key to having plants overwinter successfully. So what we suggest is get out there, water, check it for water maybe every week, every 10 days, and water deeply. The easiest way to do that is with something like a deep root water. For those people that may not have seen this before, it's a simple device you hook to your hose. You'll place a stake in the ground at varying depths depending on the plant. If you have a small shrub, maybe you're only going 6 inches deep. If you have a 10-year-old tree or a 30-year-old tree, maybe you're going halfway down. What you do, you hook the hose to this, you go around the tree, place it in the soil, let it soak for 10 minutes, go do your raking, go do your other fall tasks, come over here, move it to a different spot. For a small shrub like this, I might do 10 minutes on this side, 10 minutes on the other side, and then move on. If I'm doing a tree or an evergreen, something that's quite a bit larger, what you're looking to do is find that drip line. So take for example this tree. It has a canopy that extends to here. If it's raining and I'm underneath this tree, I'm going to find that I'm not really getting wet. I'm not really getting a lot of rain on me. The canopy acts almost like a natural umbrella. So what you'll find is the water tends to shed to this spot and drop down. Because the water sheds this spot and drops down, the tree knows that water is usually available there. That's where a lot of the feeder roots are going to be. That's not to say that there are not roots in other parts of this landscape, but the tree knows that chances are there's going to be water right where this canopy extends to. So that's really where you want to focus. And for a large tree, maybe you want to be about halfway down. You go about halfway down, leave it there 10 minutes, and then move it to another spot. And for a tree of this size, not overly large, maybe you do 3 different spots, 10, 15 minutes each, and then you move on to something else. So nice thing about this, the Ross root feeder, any deep root water is that it's hands off. You're setting it, turning it on, and going to do something else in the yard. So very simple way to do it. That's the Ross root feeder. So water's the number one thing you can do. What can you do after that? So you've done that. You've gone out, watered your newly planted plants, watered your tenders, watered your evergreens. The next thing you want to do is insulate them. Maybe it's something you planted new this year. Maybe it's something is tender, like a tender rose or tender hydrangea. Maybe it's a small evergreen that you just planted and you want to protect it for winter. What you're looking to do is insulate it with burlap. So what we've done here is we've arranged these 4 poles around the plant. Ideally, you want these poles far enough away that it's not touching the plant. In the case of a woody plant like this or a rose, not a big deal if it touches the plant. For evergreens, you do not want your burlap touching the plant itself. What you'll find is that burlap can actually wick the moisture out of the evergreen, which is not what you're looking for. You want that evergreen to stay moist. That's why we went through all that effort of watering. So you want to keep the poles a bit of a distance away. You're going to grab your burlap and you're going to go around the plant. Okay, so now that we've burlapped our tender shrub here, this is a tender hydrangea. Now that we've done that, we can then fill this with insulating material. So what can you use for insulating material? There's tons of options out there. You can use wood chips, you can use peat moss, you can use leaves, as long as the leaves are clean. Don't use any diseased or pest leaves, anything that, don't use any leaves that you had any pest or fungal issues on. But you can definitely use those and fill this up. Or if you have mulch like we have here, you can take a bucket of mulch and actually fill this all the way to the top with mulch. What that is going to do is it's going to give us that insulation that we want. It's going to hopefully protect these young tender plants from any kind of winter kill or winter dieback. So mulch, peat moss, straw, leaves, whatever you want, some kind of insulating material and a ton of moisture will help these survive through the winter time. Now here you can see how we wrapped our evergreen. We have our bamboo poles, we have our burlap, and we want to go to the complete height of the plant. You don't really want to leave anything exposed above, and you want to do a pretty good coverage. With evergreens, we're not concerned so much about the cold and keeping it frozen. What we're concerned about is wind and sun affecting the foliage of the actual plant. And so what I mean by that is we get winds in winter that'll dry the plant out, or we get sun that bounces off the snow and actually sunburns the plant. So with this burlap there, it's not only protecting from the wind, but it's also protecting from that sunlight. It's giving it a block from that sunlight during winter. Again, with evergreens, you do not want the actual plant touching the burlap. Okay, one final tip I have for you today to protect those tender plants, to protect those evergreens, to protect those things that you may have just planted this year is snow. So snow for tender plants, believe it or not, is a great thing, as long as it's clean. So don't use any snow that may have fallen off your car or that you use some ice melt products on. You don't want to introduce salt into your garden beds at all. But if it's clean snow, what you're looking to do is piling snow near the base of plants. So in the case of like a tender hydrangea or tender rose, mound the snow around the plant just like you did with mulch as much as possible. If you keep that snow around the plant, what you're going to find is it's going to insulate, just like mulch, peat moss, whatever you use, it's going to provide an insulating factor there. If the ground is thawing around the plant, that plant will have that snow near it to keep it insulated, to keep it that one temperature so we're not getting those temperature swings. The other nice thing about snow is if we get those melts that we usually get in January and February, you're going to find that the snow will provide moisture to that plant. We talked about the importance of water. If you have snow piled around your plants, as we get those melting temperatures, that melt is going to actually feed and water those plants. And again, you'll have a better chance of having those plants overwinter. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully it gave you some tips and tricks that you can use to ensure the success of those new plantings, those tender plantings, those evergreens in the fall here. If you enjoyed our video, like, comment, subscribe. If you're in the area, definitely come check us out. Come check out our botanic garden or visit us online, greenlandgarden.com. Thank you.